What question do you have that nobody has been able to give you a good answer to? Why are dreams so weird? Actually, there's been a lot new science on this in the last few decades, and reading the current Wikipedia article will tell you a lot. Basically, dreaming is your brain defragmenting factual memories, things that happened and thoughts you had, for long-term storage, dealing with emotional memory, and also random brain activation. Mix those three aspects together and that's why they're so weird. Web link. Speaking of this, last night I had a dream where I was walking home from school and got chased by a dragonfly like 2 meters long, and it stung me like a wasp would. Why does plastic turn white when you bend it? What is actually happening at the molecular level up until the break? Do different polymers and their associated dyes still turn white? It really depends on the type of plastic. Take a garbage bag. You've got these long polymeric chains that are all mixed around like a bowl of spaghetti. When you pull on that plastic and stretch it, you break the weak van der Waals bonds between the chains and align the chains. This surely changes the way light refracts, though I didn't study light refraction much because mechanical properties are more important. When the bag is stretched to its limit, it gets harder to pull apart. This is because the chains are aligned and you're not pulling on wimpy van der Waals bonds anymore. Now you're pulling on strong covalent bonds. And when you overcome the force to break those, the chains and thus the bag break. So the lightening of the plastic from flexing likely comes from the polymeric chains being more aligned and changing light refraction. Source: I'm material science engineer, but it's been years since I was in school learning this. I believe it might be similar to how you can have a colored soap that makes white foam. The damage to the plastic changes the way the light reflects, thus turning it white. So really it has nothing to do with the actual chemical composition, since there is no reaction happening. It really opens a new perspective when you think it that way. Everything you see is just the light reflected from it to your eyes. Why are sworn/cuss/bad words bad? How did it become that way and who made them bad? In the Netherlands, many cuss words are wishing horrible diseases to people, and that's bad. Measles upon you. May plague be with thou. Curse words or words of curse brought certain plagues when said in high frequency. An ancient order of knights called the Knights of Standards and Practices protected humanity by making these words taboo. If the words are said in too much, the ancient dragon Gelden may awaken and bring the end to humanity. What should I do with my life? Something that meets these requirements: A. Pays enough to support your chosen lifestyle. B. Has a schedule that allows you free time to enjoy said lifestyle. C. Doesn't make you hate yourself in the morning. You don't need to love or be passionate about your job. I wish someone had told teen me to just pick something I enjoyed. It doesn't have to be for life. I'm on my 3rd career and loving it, but plotting what the next one might be just in case. How to get a good haircut? People always just say, oh, bring in a picture of what you want. But I don't effing know what's going to be good. And when I have chosen something from the first Google image page of hairstyles for men, it never comes out looking even close to the picture. Go to a barber. Not a hairstylist. Not some chain hairstyle place. An actual barber. Tell them what you want. Allow them to make adjustments. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm trying to find a good hairstyle for me. Can you hook me up with something that looks good on me? This. Bonus points if the place closes before 5 and only accepts cash. Why are my hands constantly cold? Edit. Half of these comments say that I have bad posture and or have another problem, and the other half say that I have a physique, so if I should be worried. I have a family member who always has cold hands and feet. They have Raynaud's syndrome. It's a, usually, not serious condition that means the blood doesn't flow properly to their extremities, resulting in coldness. Why does my stainless steel razor get blunted by some hair stubble on my throat with only 1 minute of use? A good cutting edge is thin, very very thin, and commensurately weak and prone to bending. In the same way that your weak organic flesh can bend a metal spoon that is objectively harder than you are, because the metal is thin, the nanometer thin cutting edge of a razor can be bent by hairs. Once burrs and nicks have built up on a blade edge, it becomes much less efficient at cutting, as the lead edge that paired objects apart is now, say, 310x wider than before and takes that much more effort to make the cut. This won't literally happen in a minute of use, but it will happen over time. A secondary effect for a razor is you can get gunk stuck on the blade, but rinsing it off should restore function. What happens if you donate your hair to someone, and they commit a crime, leaving your hair at the crime scene? When hair is used in DNA testing, they aren't actually using the hair, but the small follicle of skin at the root of the hair. When donating hair, they cut the hair off, not extracting the root of the hair. No root, no DNA to collect. Does that mean that someone who does waxing could frame people for murder? If a Tesla's autopilot makes sure you're not too close to something, would it help you avoid a cop car that's trying to pit you? Asked this in r/Tesla and got shamed for not owning a Tesla, but it was never answered. Reddit link. Just say you were in a police chase and your Tesla avoided all attempts at the police stopping you. People love to disprove others online. One of the replies was, if you owned a Tesla you'd already know. Your advice was good, but I doubt it'd work. What a tool. As someone with one, I'll tell ya. I think the most likely outcome based on my experience with FSD is your car slamming hard on the brakes to emergency stop if the cop car pulls in front of you, at which point it won't speed up to get away. If you were just on the highway and a cop was tailing you, it'd just keep driving though. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Sounds like a sub full of pricks. It seems no one has actually answered your question. The answer is, no, a Tesla will not avoid a cop car trying to pit you. Autopilot keeps your car in its lane and will only make adjustments to speed to avoid a frontal collision, aka it will brake. Autopilot is also capable of changing lanes, and will only do so when the lane is believed to be clear, and it may abort mid-lane change if the situation changes. Finally, autopilot will apply a nudge to the steering wheel if it detects you are drifting out of your lane without a turn signal on, and a more aggressive nudge plus a loud alarm sound if it worries you are doing this into some form of obstacle. Growing up in a Southern, evangelical church, the official rule was absolutely no drinking. I asked why? Jesus drank wine regularly in the Bible? I was told, well, so many people have trouble with alcohol. Even if you can drink in moderation without sinning, someone who can't may be encouraged to drink by seeing you drink. Sort of made sense on its face until I thought for 3 seconds. There were a lot of large people in our church. So I asked, gluttony is a sin though, right? Them, yes. Me, so why do we serve donuts before church if it might tempt someone struggling with gluttony? Never got an answer other than vague comments about it being different for reasons. Edit. For everyone who has offered to talk with me about Christianity and drinking, I really do appreciate it. It is a nice gesture to want to discuss how I can be a Christian with or without alcohol. In my experiences, the people who had my upbringing either go all in or leave Christianity entirely. I made my choice on that one a while back. I have too much baggage with religion from my childhood to have any sort of mental health with it in my life. Your kindness is duly noted though. I always felt like these churches forget that you are personally accountable for your sins, as only God can judge you. It is not up to the church to make rules and control others. Just my opinion. The counter-argument is that if you love someone, you'd want to prevent them from sinning. And it would be a sin in itself if you were complicit in their sin. That being said, plenty of people are just looking for ways to control others. What do DJs actually do? When you watch a video of them playing their turntables, they do all sorts of stuff, turning knobs, pressing buttons, moving sliders up and down, etc. It all looks very showy, but as far as I can tell, none of it has any discernible effect on the music. Like they'll grab some random knob and turn it and start dancing like that was some really sick crap, but absolutely nothing happened to the beat, timbre, pitch, melody, etc. Sometimes they're setting up and queuing the next track to drop in the opportune moment. That's done on their headphones, so you won't hear it till they want you to hear it. Being able to hop around to the current song being blasted in the club and not the ones on their headphones is their actual skill. You have knobs for multiple different things, including gain, volume, high/mid/low, which control things like the bass, middle and hi-hats, a mixer slider, and most mixers nowadays have built-in effects you can also use. When mixing, you might bring a track in with high only and slowly bring in the middle, and then finally the bass for when the track drops. Also, the art of mixing, DJing, is to make the set fluid so that the audience do not notice track changes and make the set flow. Basically, it's one of those things that if you do the job well, people will think you're doing nothing at all. F up though, and they'll definitely notice. Reading the crowd, choosing what comes next, as the crowd may not be vibing right, for lack of a better term, for that point in their pre-selected set list. Cueing the next track and trying to adjust and plan ahead based on information gained in the first point. Matching the a cappella track to the exact right places of up to 2 now playing ones and timing it for emotional effect without overlapping the original vocals, can also be done with sampler. Cutting and boosting certain frequencies, timing and playing complementary effects, some accompanying the track on a MIDI keyboard or the above-mentioned sampler. Just off the top of my head. P.S. If they're doing a good job, you might not notice most of these, and just have a great time, but if they are not doing it well, you most certainly will notice. If gravity bends light, how do we know anything in the far reaches of the universe is actually located where we think it is? What does the U.S. national debt really mean? Who do we owe? What is the impact of the debt? What risks does it impose? As far as I know, we mostly own money to ourselves. The way it was explained to me is that the US takes the money in the banks and uses that, but they have to pay it back. So they are constantly in debt to US citizens. Here is a link that shows the debt and where it is to slash from. Web link. Why clean dishes / glasses acquire an abhorrent smell sometimes, especially in summer if a window is open. Weirder still, not everyone seems to be able to smell it. I used to have one as a child. What are those weird-looking things you could see when you are kind of looking directly at sunlight? They look like transparent centipedes and circle bugs with definite boundary but transparent as a glass. I thought I had special powers and could see all the microorganisms like bacteria and virus and whatnot. And later I came to know that they are just impurities inside your eye and you could see them when exposed at an angle to the light. Now that we are in a pandemic, I wish I could see viruses. They are called floaters or muscae volatants. They're not foreign materials, but bits of your own body that break loose, such as tiny portions of tissue, red blood cells, or protein, and end up in the gel-like vitreous humor that fills the space between the lens and the retina. Not just this, but what you see is actually the shadow of them on your retina, I think. What is enjoyable about cheating in online games? I knew a guy that used wall hacks and aimbot on Counter-Strike, way back when it was still a Half-Life mod. He wasn't trying to win games, he just found it funny. It was trolling. He'd see how long it took for people to notice, and then argue with them when they called him out. How do you know that the color orange you see is the same color orange I see? What if everyone sees different colors and the learned names are the only thing that is the same? Does this mean that color is just a pigment of your imagination? What were electric eels called before electricity was invented? Edit, for all the people. In Patrick's voice, saying electricity wasn't invented, it was discovered. Leedle lee, y'all are annoying, sorry I'm not Bill Nye the science guy. Banded knifefish from 1766 to 1864. Zappy worms. Close, but the ancient Egyptians called them web link. If I slapped a chicken enough to cook it, would I also cook my hand? How does it feel having threesome? Nobody in my circle have experience. You have to figure out ground rules. Mine was more exhausting than fun. The two girls did not interact at all, I just had to have sex twice quickly while someone watched. Someone usually gets left out, but it's best when you're all just friends. And triple times F is the most sexual fun I've ever had in my life. Figures, your posts are mostly lady pics. Do people who are 100% physically healthy exist? Edit. For the smartasses out there, people lacking any identifiable disease, defect or disorder that has or may have a negative effect on their well-being. Why is this not suitable for work? What if one of the questions was how to clean your butt before anal? Where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? Gondor was defending the passes of Anduin the Great at Caer Andros and Osgiliath and was in no position to offer military aid to the west of Rohan. This applies to both the movies and the books. Thanks, now I'm hard. Why do giants in movies/TV/games, etc. move in slow motion? If you're a puny human looking up at these things as they stroll by, why do they appear to move like a knot? Web link. The answer is that giants don't move slowly, it just looks like they do. If you imagine looking at, say, a 100 feet tall human raising a hand from waist to shoulder in the same time as a normal-sized person, then the hand would be moving in excess of 100 tech, insanely fast. The underlying physics here is the muscle strength scales with cross-section, length squared, whereas overall creature mass scales with volume, length cubed. Larger creatures are inevitably weaker for their size than small ones and can't move limbs from one extreme to the other as quickly. We can see this effect at moderate scales in real-life animals like giraffes and elephants. Their movements have a ponderous look to them. This is a known rule in animation, filmmaking, and first came about when using basic film splicing in the 1900s to, say, make a person look like a giant Poseidon rising out of the sea in front of Jason and the Argonauts. The giant footage looks really stupid at real speed, and they had to learn the scaling rules of thumb for what speed to play it at to look realistic. I think ultimately some physicists came up with the scaling laws. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.